Okay, and now for something completely different. Not only am I the only European here in the audience, I think, but I'm also not a chef. I'm not even a food scientist. The only thing I have with food is that I eat it myself. I'm a physicist. And what I try to do today is to explain to you what nanotechnology is and what it can do for you for your food. In the end, I hope, after 18 minutes, that is what I have achieved. Okay, first of all, why do we need nanotechnology at all in food? Well, maybe one of the problems is that we eat too little. And that is probably something that you think that's strange, because we are all obese, we've heard it today. So probably we eat too much. Well, maybe not. If we look at evolution, then, our body is really not very well prepared for the last phase. And that is one of the problems. Prehistoric man had to hunt and gather their food. And that requires a lot of energy. And moreover, the amount of food that you could eat in prehistoric times was correlated with the amount of energy that you put into it. Nowadays, we go to one of the restaurants that we've seen here, or we go to the supermarket to buy our food. There's no relation between what we can eat and the amount of energy that we have to put in to get it. But maybe even more important, prehistoric man did not have well-heated offices, well-heated houses, nice clothing. They had a lot of energy to spend to keep their bodies warm. So in the end, prehistoric man had much more energy to spend just to maintain their body than we do now. And if we look at the food that they ate, this is a concept that I'm trying to explain, okay? If you see a picture like this in the coming slides, then the height of the picture tells you something about the energy content of the food depicted, okay? So the energy that is what you need to move, to heat yourself. The width of the picture tells you something about the nutritional content. So what is in there that builds up your body. Okay? So if you see this picture, then there's more nutritional content in this case than there is energy content. Now, if we look at prehistoric man, they usually ate vegetables and nuts and roots, things like that. And very little meat. So the energy content was low, but also the nutritional value was not that good. Prehistoric man, it has been established, had to eat every day 1.5 to 2 kilograms of food to maintain their body and to get all the energy that they needed. Now, if we look at modern man, you can imagine what happens. Our food has a lot of energy and very little nutrition. And this is a problem. If we compare modern man to prehistoric man, and we look at the diet of the prehistoric man, a bit of energy content, a lot of nutritional content. If we look at modern man, unfortunately, a lot of energy content and very little nutritional content. But because we use less energy, we have to scale that down even. So there's even very little nutritional content left. And that's why I say maybe we eat too little. So what is the solution? If you look at behind the scenes what happens in this case, so prehistoric man with this diet, the gastrointestinal tract gets this 1.5 to 2 kilograms of food each day, and it can grab every nutritional element it needs. Minerals, vitamins, fibers, everything is there. But now, modern man, a lot of energy, but very little nutritional value. So we have to try, this gastrointestinal tract of ours is not prepared for this type of food. But if you eat like these people, there's no problem. If you eat 200 grams of vegetables, 2 pieces of fruit in a varied diet each day, then you're okay. We've heard it today a lot of times. That is the way to keep healthy. Unfortunately, a lot of people have different eating habits. And even if I go to a restaurant, I sometimes get a plate with a lot of French fries, a lot of meat, and there are 3 beans on it. We call them shame beans, because the cook more or less puts them there for the color, not for the 200 grams of vegetables. I can assure you 200 grams of vegetables look different than 3 beans. In order to, and the problem is maybe not with us, but the groups that are really seriously at risk are the elderly, because they even use less energy, so they eat very little, and they get very little nutritional value, or people that get hospitalized, because usually you are sick before you get hospitalized, you eat very little, you only eat specific foods that you like. And we've seen that people that get into hospitals sometimes are malnutritioned. They need to be fed properly before they can be operated, because otherwise they would not survive the operation. So these are the groups at risk. Okay, so what is the solution? Fortification. That is a concept that food industry has developed. And the idea is, so you take a food product that is liked among large groups in the society. I've used here a Coke, for instance. And you try to add things that are good for you. Okay, so simply add nutrients to the Coke and you improve the nutritional value of the Coke. Unfortunately, you can't do that simply, because very often what you want to add has a bad taste. So it would spoil the taste of your original food. Another problem is that very often the things that you want to add are sensitive to treatment. So you have to prepare the food, and in the preparation you destroy the components that you've added. Or they react with each other. For instance, vitamin A and iron are both important if you want to get the iron into your body, but they react before they can get into your body if you put them simply in a food. And very often the bioavailability is also a problem. So here we have nanotechnologies. Nanotechnologies can help here. Okay, and this is only one of the examples. This is the one example that I will present here. There are much more. I will talk briefly about that as well. So, what are nanotechnologies? Probably it's a difficult concept for most of you. If you look at nature and natural things, then if you go down the scales, the length scales, you can see in the middle of the slide, you can see that, well, you've got things for about 1 centimeter or 1 millimeter, insects usually. And if you go down, you get to visible light, the wavelength of visible light. And below the wavelength of visible light, there's the nano world. The nano world spans from 1 nanometer to about 100 nanometers. That is what we call the nano world. And it's molecules. You can see important molecules on the left. To give you an idea of how small that is, your fingernails, they grow quite slowly, we agree. in 1 second, your fingernails grow about 1 nanometer. That is how small a nanometer is. Okay, man has mastered the nano world, so we have been able to create structures also at the nanoscale. And there are some here on the slide that you can see that we have been able to achieve. Now, food also has aspects in the nanoscale. So if this is a cheese, if you go down this length scale, then you first see all sort of elements, but in the end you see proteins and structures like that, and these are structures in the food at the nanoscale. The take-home message for you today is that virtually all foods that we use are nano-structured. And you can imagine that if you want to change something in the food, if you want to add functionality, if you want to change the texture, for instance, that you need a technology that can do things at that length scale. And that is what nanotechnology does for food. It's very simple. Okay, so what the idea with nanotechnologies here is we want to make sure that he doesn't taste the bad thing. We want to shield what needs protection. We want to make sure that elements do not react with each other, molecules, and we want to improve the bioavailability. And to do that all, we use encapsulation. It's a working horse of nanotechnologies nowadays. So the idea is that you build with molecules, so the shell of this particle is built with small molecules, and you build this sphere. And you put your nutrients in that you want to deliver in the body. The sphere is about 100 to 300 nanometers, so it's a little bit larger than the nanoparticle. You put these particles in as an ingredient in your food, and then you eat the food, and at a certain point in time, it gets to a specific point in your gastrointestinal tract, usually the small intestine, and there you want the particle to fall apart. So you're looking for very specific behavior of these particles, and that's why you need nanotechnology to build them. What we do as nanotechnologists to build these particles is we use specific molecules, usually molecules like this. This is a phospholipid, and it's very well known. Virtually everything in your body is made of phospholipids because they make the membranes of all cells of living beings. So these molecules are very, very widely known and are very abundant in all your food. So these are not strange molecules. Your body knows how to deal with these molecules. But you can, with these molecules, you can build structures like this if you put them in water. They self-assemble. You don't need to do anything. You just, depending on the size of the head, and the length of the tails and things like that, they self-assemble into different structures. And also the structure that I'm looking for, the sphere, where I want to put some things in. So this is nanotechnology at work. So nanotechnology is only a tool set for the food technologists. But it's precise, it's efficient, it's very powerful, you can do a lot of it, you can make money with it, and it's very, very promising. It makes innovation going, and that's why it's a hype. So, what other applications are there for nanotechnologies in food? I've shown you the example of encapsulation. What you also can do is structuring. Where is he? Oh. The cow, in the previous presentation, is very efficient in producing food. That's true. By structuring proteins from plants directly into a meat-like substance, like we've done here, you can gain a factor of 10 in sustainability of food production. So nanotechnology, with nanotechnology you can structure substances like that, and you can build and you can increase sustainability, and you make food security available. You can build sensors and diagnostic systems that detect bacteria and things like that, or chemical substances that should not be in your food, like mycotoxins and things like that. You can build very efficient sensors with nanotechnologies. You can make processing innovations. This is a picture of a new type of emulsion. A mayonnaise, for instance, is an emulsion. It's oil droplets in water. This is also oil droplets in water, but what we've done is we've taken out the inner part of the oil. So we removed a substantial amount of oil from these oil droplets and made a really lightweight mayonnaise, helping people get less obese and still be able to eat mayonnaise. Packaging is a very important application area of nanotechnologies. You can increase the shelf life, so you can maintain the freshness of foods with nanotechnologies. You can modify surfaces in the kitchen, for instance, so that they are easy cleanable. Here, this is a droplet of milk on one of these surfaces that have been treated, and you can see that it doesn't stick to the surface, so it's easy cleanable. And there are many more applications of nanotechnologies. Okay, so it looks quite promising, but you read in the paper also that there are some risks associated with nanotechnologies. Now, let me go into the risks. I always go into the risks, so I don't want you to leave this room not understanding the risks of nanotechnology. First of all, nanotechnology is a technology. It's not something that you can take in your hands. It's something that you can use to make something. And if I depict everything that you can make with nanotechnologies here in the blue. So these are all the things that you can make with nanotechnologies. For instance, your cell phone, chips in a computer, but also these vesicles, these small particles in food, are depicted here schematically, okay? Now, nanoparticles are products of nanotechnology. They are over there, so they are a small part of all the nanotechnology products that you can imagine. And also, some of the nanoparticles are outside of the nanotechnology. That is because most of the nanoparticles that you encounter in your daily life are not man-made, but are products of nature. Volcanoes produce a lot of nanoparticles. The sea produces nanoparticles. Wear processes from tires, for instance, they produce a lot of nanoparticles. We've been exposed to these particles for quite some time already. And only a specific part of the nanoparticles are the risky ones. It's only a subset. So from all the nanotechnology, only a small part is nanoparticle, and only a small part of that is dangerous. And why is that? This is work from the US, from Scott McNeil. He has drawn up this nice picture, and it really helps to explain. Nanoparticles have different properties, and we are still researching what properties make them dangerous, risky, and what properties are not make them not risky. But one thing is, if they are small, they're risky. If they do not dissolve, so if they do not dissolve into water or into bodily fluids, then they're also risky, because then they can stay in certain parts of your body and trigger reactions. If they're not biocompatible, they're also not risky, because non-biocompatible substances in your body are recognized and your body has mechanisms to get them out. But if they're biocompatible, your body doesn't recognize them, and they get, again, time to do something that you don't want in your body. And finally, if they are, the last parameter is, if the surface charge of a particle is positive, they are more dangerous than if they are negative. Okay, so the take-home message is A, nanotechnology is a powerful technology that you can use also in food, because foods are nanostructured materials, and take care of persistent, non-dissolvable nanoparticles. Do not put them in food, because they could be dangerous. And with that, I thank you.